Welcome to Fantasy Football Dynasty 365, my friends. I'm your host, Chris Burns. With me tonight, I got my buddy Tyler Howell, my buddy Rich Sickles, and our guest tonight, special guest, Kevin Coleman from the Devy Royale. And tonight, we're going to be redrafting the 2020 rookie draft. So as I said on Twitter, fire up the power to 1.21 gigawatts, and let's go ahead and get started. My man Tyler, play that funky music, please, sir. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dynasty 365. Tonight, I'd like to give a special welcome to our friend, Kevin Coleman. You can find his content over at Devy Royale, and you can also find that on Twitter, the Twitter machine, or X, whatever you call it, at the Devy Royale as well. Kevin, welcome, my friend. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, boys. Good to be here. Always love chopping it up with you guys when I got some time. And going back down memory lane here. I'm already feeling old every year. So like now that we're going down memory lane on the show topic, I'm buyer's remorse on some of the guys that we're gonna be talking about today, probably.
I think we all are. Tyler, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. I'm a little upset you went with the Back to the Future reference rather than Hot Tub Time Machine, but I'll learn to forgive you.
I apologize. That's on me. That's on me. See, draft me like my draft stock is plummeting right now. Rich, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I'm buying you low because give me all the Back to the Future references. I'm sorry, Tyler, but
don't be sorry.
All right. Kevin, I just want to ask you: Hot Tub Time Machine or Back to the Future?
So I'm gonna go Hot Tub Time Machine because I've actually never seen Back to the Future. If that's gonna hurt someone's feelings or anything like that, yeah, I've never actually watched Back to the Future.
Okay.
God, yeah. What are you, Gen Z or something?
I just never watched it. I just one of those movies. It's one of those movies where like someone like, oh, have you ever seen them? No, and they get that shock face. I like that value. I like that shock value over watching the movie at this point in my life.
I understand that. Okay, yeah. Just for context, if we went back to the future from the same time frame as the movie, you'd be going back to 1994. So how does that make you feel?
I'd be 5. I was 5 years old in 1994.
Oh, it was a simpler time.
Just for a little context on that too, Chris, to piggyback off you, I saw someone said we are the same distance from 1980 right now as 1936 was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
80 was a damn good year. Like
that hurts.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff happened in 1980. All right, everybody. Remember to drop your comments, your questions, anything that you might have in the chat. If you have any trade questions, feel free to throw those in too, and we'll try to answer them as we can throughout the show. All right. So, guys, before we get into this draft, breaking news. So we know that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they're both absent from the Bengals OTAs. How do you feel about that? Kevin, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy too much stock in the OTA stuff. I think you probably buy a little bit more into T. Higgins just because I think he did not want to be franchise tagged, and I think that's one of those things. And has he signed his tender yet? Because I thought somewhere we hadn't signed it yet. So I think that's a big deal. To where I know the Bengals want him. He'll probably play there, but this is more front for like Dynasty. Like I think he's gone after this year because they're not going to have the money to pay him anyway. So that's something to kind of know. I mean, everybody's been talking about him being gone for the last like 2 years. Oh, this is his year. But I think more for like after this year, he's definitely upset. I think they are going to move on. And then you have to start looking at like that depth chart, Jermaine Burton, Andre Ivasovis, one of those guys out there that you could be adding now before next year, before his price gets too big there. As far as Chase goes, he'll be there. He's a gamer. He just doesn't want to do OTAs.
I agree. Rich, you feeling bad about this? You a little worried?
No, I'm not worried at all. Like Kevin was saying, especially when it comes to Chase, he's going to be there. Why would you go to the OTAs if you really don't have to? Higgins, little bit of worry, but not a whole lot. I'm still interested to see if he does get traded. There's a whole lot of time between now and before the season starts. And there's a couple places I've been saying it'd be sweet to see him with the Packers. So there's a part of me that would love to see that happen.
Because you're a Packer fan.
No.
Admit it.
They need a wide receiver one. They need a wide receiver one. That's all it is. That's all it is.
All right. Another thing in the news we saw earlier this week that Nico Collins, he got paid 3 years, $72.75 million, $17 million signing bonus. Tyler, that moving the needle for you, or how you feeling, my friend?
I love it, and I think they should be looking north and yelling at Jerry Jones saying, this is how you do it, Jerry. You sign a guy a year early. You get a guy who's about to have a top 10 wide receiver season for way below market value right now with the $25 million a year, and you just keep capitalizing on that value. So I love it. Nico Collins is still going to be the wide receiver one there. People are sleeping on him still, and if you can buy him, I would still go out and try to get him if you can.
Okay, hear that. Kevin, question for you. You think Nico's the man to own, or do you think it's Stephon Diggs, or you think, the big boy Tank when he comes back?
I don't think it's Diggs at all. I don't think it's Diggs. I'm on the forefront of like what Diggs was last year, I think is what he is towards that end of the year. I mean, he had like 160 targets. He just wasn't efficient with it. I'll have to eat crow a little bit on Nico Collins. As a Michigan fan, I think my hatred towards him as a Michigan player really affected my dynasty and just my take of Nico moving forward because he balled out. I mean, last year, 24% target share, and he had 3.11 yards per route run, which was one of the best in the NFL the last 4 or 5 years. So, like, from an advanced metrics standpoint, Nico is one of the best players in the NFL and the best wide receivers there. As far as wide receiver one, to me, it always comes down to price. So I will just take whatever one is cheaper between him and Tank in terms of like as the ADP is kind of falling. They kind of fit in that same tier. There's just like a huge wide receiver 14 to like 30 tier where I'm like, I really think that those guys will all kind of just play themselves out of there. So if it's Nico or Tank, to me, it's like whoever I can get cheapest there. But I do agree with Tyler a little bit. I think Nico is getting slept on. I think there's a contingent out there that think his home and away splits are weird, though. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at that, but like he is amazing home splits. But away splits, you're looking at it, you're like, what the hell is going on? And he was injured a couple games, so it definitely messed that up. So like, if you look at his home and away splits, you get a little nervous, but I don't think Diggs hurts him that bad. I think he's the big play guy when you're looking at his yards, his air yards, and everything came after the catch. So you have to love that. So I'm kind of aboard the Nico Collins trains after not being on that train for a while.
Okay. That makes sense. And to your point about his home and away splits, he learned that from T.Y. Hilton. So when he's in Houston, big games. So that's just how he gets down. All right.
Wow. Speaking of time machine.
Yeah. T.Y. Come on. All right. All right, guys. So the crux of the show tonight, we're going to get into that hot tub. We're going to travel back in time, and we're going to redo the 2020 rookie draft. So it's a 2020 redraft, but it's a dynasty draft. We're just redrafting the rookie dynasty. And it's super flex, tight end premium. That's the format that we're going to be drafting from. Is there anything in particular that I missed, Tyler, or anything to add to that?
I would just say we are drafting this like it is 2020, knowing what we know now.
That's correct. So knowing what we know now, who are we picking? Who doesn't make the cut? That was in the top of all of our draft boards in 2020. So let's go ahead and get started with that. All right. So as you can see, Tyler's brought up the draft board, and leading off tonight is going to be our esteemed guest, Kevin Coleman. You're in the 101. So feel free to make your pick.
This was a lot harder than you would expect when you're looking at this, because I really wanted to take Justin Jefferson here. And I was like, I really want to take him there. But with Superflex and just with, the upside that he brings from a rushing perspective, I'm going to take Jalen Hurts. So I'm going to go ahead and stick to ADP, I guess, as you can call it. Take Jalen Hurts. I mean, he was QB2 last year in fantasy scoring in 2023. You have to love that. I mean, the tush push is still here, boys. So we're still good from a rushing standpoint that he's going to be able to score touchdowns there. I mean, and when you're looking at that, like in 2022, he averaged 25.6 fantasy points per game. This dude just scores fantasy points with where you're at. And you have to give him a shout out because, I mean, you guys can tell where he was drafted, the difference there. I mean, he came into the league as that second round pick, as that kind of, a lot of people in 2020 were saying, stay away from him in your drafts. He can't throw the football, all of that. I mean, a big part of that was Steichen's offense and what he was able to do there and kind of develop into that offense. But you have to look at his touchdown runs. I mean, he is just efficient on the ground. And in fantasy, that's what wins you leagues.
That is strong. It's really, really, really hard to argue with that. So, yeah, that's a really good pick. At the 101, I can't see the board. Jalen
Hurts. That's all. That's the best I got, man. I'm sorry if I go in much further, we won't see it.
It is all good. So up next is me at the 102, and there's so many choices to make here. So many choices, but with it being a super flex, I'm going to go a little different than I initially was thinking. I am going to have to go with Joe Burrow, quarterback out of Cincinnati. And the reason is like ever since he's been into the league, except for that first year where he got hurt, he's come back and he's just shown just flashes of brilliance. He's got two stud pillars on the outside. You know, he's got his safety blanket or whatever. He's got whatever you want to call him in Jamar Chase out there doing big things. And then T. Higgins, while he's still around, is a very, very efficient wide receiver as well. You look at how he's taken that team. He's led them to the playoffs, went to an AFC championship, and he's just been good. Now, if he can just get away from those lingering little nagging issues that keep him off the field from time to time, but that'll be all right. But when you're in a super flex and the rookie draft, you're trying to go for those quarterbacks just because they're going to give you value for a much longer time than any of the other positions for the most part. And when you look at the other quarterbacks in this draft, if it's not Hurts and it's not Burrow, there's only another one that you are really like excited about. The rest of them, there might be two, 1.5. Well, it depends on how you feel about it. But once we get there, I'm sure Tyler will have something to say about my opinion. But speaking of Tyler, we're going to go to you at the 103, Tyler. You're on the clock.
You threw me for a loop, Chris. You said you were going to pick someone before we went on.
Because I was.
You just changed your mind on me.
Kevin messed it up. He messed it up for you.
But you know what? I'm going to stick to my guns here. I'm going to go ahead and take my guy, CeeDee Lamb.
Oh.
And I know it's a little spicy going over Justin Jefferson. But, I feel good about where CeeDee's at with quarterback. I think eventually the Cowboys get it done with Dak. I don't know how they do business. It's weird, but I think it's going to get done. And, Jefferson was incredible his first 3 years in the league. But he also had Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. Now he has a big question mark in J.J. McCarthy and half a season of Sam Darnold. And it's not like CeeDee's been bad. He finished wide receiver, 22, 19, 5, and then 1 in his career. So give me that. Give me two guys who are they're the top 2 dynasty wide receivers for me, period, out of this one rookie class. And I'm just going to go with the better quarterback pairing and take the next 5 years of CeeDee Lamb producing at a wide receiver 1 level.
I like it. That's tough to argue with. I'm not sure if Rich is going to agree with that pick, or maybe he's happy that you did make that pick. Rich, we're coming to you. You're on the clock, sir.
Yeah, no, Tyler, you threw me for a loop there. So now I'm spinning because I was ready to take CeeDee Lamb because he is my wide receiver 1 right now in Dynasty. But I'm going to go with the homer pick, and I'm going to take Justin Jefferson. I'm excited to get him. I'm excited to have him on my team, being a Vikings fan as it is. And he showed that last year, even with the pseudo quarterback play that he had, like he was still able to put up good numbers. I think that he will be sitting in a good place with either JJ or Sam Darnold, whichever. A lot of people forget about how well Sam Darnold played in the beginning when he was with Carolina, when he first went to Carolina, the first 4 games before everything went to crap. I think that he'll be able to support Justin Jefferson all right. And if it's not him, if it's JJ McCarthy, I'm excited about that too. So yeah, give me Justin Jefferson.
All right. I mean,
wide receiver 1.
I can't argue with that either. I like Jefferson a lot. And as Tyler said, that I threw him off because I told him that I was taking Justin Jefferson with my first pick. And I really was. But I didn't think Hurts would go first. And so that kind of changed me a little bit. So, but there we are. So we're off the rails already, guys. We're off the rails already.
Just like a draft should be.
Yeah, I like it. You know? That's right. What's this? Be water, because you never know what those degenerates in your drafts are going to be doing. So just pay attention. All right, Kevin, we are back to you.
Yeah, so just look at the board. I mean, trying to figure out, kind of going through it. And I'm probably going to piss off some Packer fans, but I'm going to take Tua. I'm going to take Tua here at 5. And I have Tua ranked higher than Jordan Love and Dynasty. And I think part of it, I love the offense that he's in. I mean, he was QB5 last year at the beginning of the season. He was QB5 in fantasy scoring. He averaged like over 300 yards and almost 3 touchdowns last year. I know he had a little bit of a drop off towards the end last year, but I still think, I mean, a lot of that came with Waddle's injury. Hill was kind of banged up too. Like, that offense definitely got injured. And that offensive line last year down the stretch was just terrible. So, and I'm not making excuses for him. I just think that built in that offense, McDaniel's offense there, I think that I'd rather have Tua. He's going to get paid, and people can complain all they want, but this dude's going to get a 4-year deal. It's going to be almost $50 million a year. And he's going to be in an offense with those weapons and a system that's going to just score fantasy points. So I will take Tua. I know the love is out there in the debate with him. I just can't get behind it. I'd rather have Tua offense, and I think he's an underrated fantasy asset too in Dynasty. Like, if he's your QB2, I think that you can win your fantasy league.
I love that. I mean, that's brilliant. That's some of the most brilliant analysis that's been spewed on these DFS 65 airwaves.
Okay, Dolphins fan.
I don't have a dog in the fight. But I love everything that you just said right there, Kev. Oh man, it just made me feel so good. You're higher on Tua than I am, so I love that a lot. All right, so comes back to me with my next pick, and it is a super flex. So I have a choice to make.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with none other than Mr. Justin Herbert of the Chargers. And I'm going with Herbert right now because he has shown that he can play the ball. He can play. He can throw the ball. There's a lot of losses on his resume, not necessarily his fault when his defense is giving up 35.3 points a game. It's kind of hard to win a lot of games like that. But every season that he's been playing, he's been balling. So his rookie season, after the unceremonious puncture to Tyrod's lung, then he gets into the game, he starts playing. But that whole season, he had 4,300 yards passing, 31 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. It's pretty strong, with a 98.3 QB rating. And then he follows it up with 5,000 yards from scrimmage passing, 38 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. And then last season, he had his down year that he had, but that was a whole injury with his hand, for 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. Herbert also has a lot of juice when he gets outside the pocket. He can make moves with his legs. He is a gamer. If you go back and you look to the games that he pulls out, like when he's down in the fourth quarter or something like that, he'll get the team back in there, and then Staley would go do whatever he needed to do to absolutely lose that game for him. Yeah. So in a draft like this, where quarterbacks are king, and he's one of the good ones, I could have went with Jordan Love right there, but knowing what I know now, I do know that in 2020 I would have to have waited a little bit to actually have Jordan Love do anything for me. So while Jordan Love is sitting there watching Aaron Rodgers, get into what Gutekunst, or however you pronounce his name, Herbert was out there slinging touchdowns. So that's where I'm going with that pick, Justin Herbert.
Oh man,
Tyler.
You made this hard for me, Chris.
You know, I'm just trying to
I thought you
going.
were just going to be a hater and just not take Justin Herbert. I just out of pure spite, since you didn't seem to think that he was very good for fantasy before the show.
I didn't want Holly Herbert and Mark Herbert to come after me for dissing their son on air.
Okay, so I've got a few options here. Jordan Love's still there. Do I want to wait 3 seasons for Jordan Love to produce, knowing that I think we'll have a top 10 quarterback here at the end of those 3 seasons? You got Brandon Ayuk out there, he was fine his first 2 years. He was kind of in and out of the doghouse, and then the last 2 years you really kind of see him for who he is. Michael Pittman, Mr. Consistent. T. Higgins, somewhat consistent. Or I could just take 2 top 5 running back years in Jonathan Taylor. So there are a lot of different routes to go here. And I think with it being Dynasty, I'm just going to take those top 2 seasons of Jonathan Taylor. You got a RB1 season and RB5 season in there. It's hard to beat. And he's on an extension now with a vastly improved offense. I can't say no to those 2 years of Jonathan Taylor, even if I know Jordan Love is in the wings to be a top 10 quarterback.
Absolutely. Fair enough. I would have taken Jonathan Taylor there as well. So I think that was a good pick. Rich, yeah. I feel like you sound like you got sniped. You all right over there?
Yeah, no, this is the second time in a row that Tyler is just crushing my heart, and I'm just ready to. Yes. No, no. Taylor was a good pick. That was a great pick. And the fact that Jordan Love is there, I think that Tyler already hit all the points on it. But I'm probably going to go Jordan Love at this point, knowing what I know now, knowing that I'm going to have a top 10 quarterback in the wings down the stretch, especially in a super flex league. Like that's something that I would definitely want. I know you're probably just waiting to call me a Packer fan. I know it, Chris. I know it. But no, seriously, I love what Jordan Love has brought to the table, and like I was saying before the show started, if they could get a wide receiver 1 there, give it to me.
All right. Yep. Rich continues his Packer love. He's filling in for Stacy with all that Packer love. He says he's a Vikings fan, but I don't never hear him say anything nice about him, to be honest with you. Like, Bears and Packers.
I took Justin Jefferson. Come on now.
It's okay.
Yeah, you did. That was an easy one, though. You had to.
That was an easy one. Yeah.
I never say anything nice about the Browns, so.
That's true. Kevin, you are back on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a tier break here, so I'm pretty happy to be on the other side of it. So I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk. I'm just going to go ahead and take 49 wide receiver who, since 2020 he's performed pretty well. So like you're looking at him, like he definitely had, he's definitely risen up the dynasty drafts from when he was originally drafted from 18 to 9. But just, hey, he's had 700 yards, at least 700 yards every season. He's had 2,000 yard seasons. Last year, 1,300 yards. I mean, he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league. I mean, I think from an NFL standpoint, I think you could argue that he's maybe even higher than that. From fantasy, I think what hurts him the most, probably the inconsistent quarterback play. I mean, I know Purdy's been there now for the last 2 years, which is great, but just having all those weapons in San Francisco definitely hurts him there. And there are times that, like, he only had 105 targets last year. He should be at like 130. Like Ayuk should be getting targeted way more than most of these other guys on the roster. So I think that he's in for another, if he gets the contract. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I do think that he's in for at least 2 or 3 years of very top 12 production. And if you showed what you could got from Brandon Ayuk, he might have been the best second round pick in this entire draft 4 years ago when it happened. Like Ayuk has really balled out.
Good call. I mean, yeah, I am a big Ayuk fan. I feel that he does not get the love that he really deserves. I know Tyler's not a fan of Ayuk.
What?
The reaction. I just did it for the reaction. That is not true. Tyler loves Ayuk as well. So I know that he wouldn't have been around if he was on the board much longer. All right. So that brings me to my pick. And before I get to my pick, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube, watching Dynasty 365. As always, feel free to like, comment, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any content from Fantasy and Frames as it comes out. We got a lot of good stuff coming as we are ramping up in the season, getting closer to real live football. So come on and check us out. But thank you for being with us tonight. All right. My pick, I'm going to go with wide receiver T. Higgins for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm going with Higgins just because he has been he's been fairly consistent, for his career, like giving me a solid wide receiver 2, just floor. That's where he's at, wide receiver 2, coming in at wide receiver 15, for the most part. He had his breakout season, really, was his sophomore season, 1,091 yards. Hold on. T. Higgins in this class, or am I being crazy?
He's in this class.
He was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Already put him on the board, man.
Yeah. So what it was, right? I'm thinking about, that Jamar Chase, because I was talking about him with Burrow, and I'm like, did I just draft Jamar Chase? Like, all right. Just making sure you guys are paying attention. Anyhow, T. Higgins, in his sophomore year, he had 74 catches for 1,091 yards, and he had 6 touchdowns. And a lot of people thought that he would just fade away when Jamar Chase joined the team. And not the case. He still did his thing, and he was actually pretty productive when Chase was on the field. You saw his dip in production when, Chase left. But right now, even if he doesn't play in Cincy this year or the years in the future, I don't think he'll be there following this year if he actually plays out that tag. I think wherever he goes, he's going to be a stud. Like Rich already said earlier that he would love to see him in Green Bay just because he loves Green Bay and he wants to see them do well. I think that, he'd be a stud there. I think anywhere he goes, anywhere he lands, his skill set is going to be that possession receiver that is going to be that target that every quarterback really loves, playing on the outside the numbers, making those catches, or coming across, making those tough catches in traffic. So I love Higgins, and that is why he is my pick right here. Tyler, back to you, my friend.
Man, I appreciate you so much, Chris, because I am very happy. Speaking of tier breaks that you mentioned, Kevin, there was a tier break at 9, and now there's another tier break at 11. So screw you, Rich. I'm going to take Michael Pittman here. That's a very, very easy pick for me. Yeah. He's been consistent as all hell throughout his career. I mean, he had a slow rookie year, but that's okay. Other than that, he was wide receiver 17, 20, and 13. And that's with the likes of Carson Wentz. Who else am I missing? Old decrepit Matt Ryan, Sam Ellinger, and Jacob Eason and Gardner Minshew being the most prominent passers of the ball to him. Now you get a healthy Anthony Richardson coming into next year, and he just got paid 3 years, $70 million, which sounds like a little motivation for the deal that Nico Collins just got, 3 years, $72.5 million. So just a little markup on the Michael Pittman deal. I will very happily take Michael Pittman and let him be my wide receiver 2 on my team and put up wide receiver 15, 16, 17 numbers for the next 4 years with Anthony Richardson. So I'm very happy to get Michael Pittman there.
I hate you.
This is a real tear break too, because when you're looking at the board, you're just like, "This is disgusting." This is where you trade back, Rich. If you can trade back, you do it right here.
Yeah, right. Anybody want to trade back with me? Anybody
no, you got it. We got it.
No, you.
Let's see your reach. Let me see your reach. Let's go.
All right. So I mean, really, out of what's left on the board, there's 2 players that I'm looking at, and I'm gonna go with the one that is hopefully, as of now, going to be more of a impact, and I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift.
Bastard.
No, so the first couple of years and whatnot, he's been a low tier RB2 so far going into this year. He hasn't shown a whole lot, but he has shown that he can be productive. And I really think that this year, with him being in Chicago, with the weapons that they have and everything, I think this is the best position that he's been in yet. I think that they put around a lot into the offensive line too as well. I think that they at least tried to put something into it, I should say. So I think that he will be better than what we saw with Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson last year, which just rips my heart out. But yeah, no, I'm I'm excited to see what DeAndre Swift does this year, and so give me DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift is off the board. And so that would conclude the first round of the rookie draft. Tyler, can you tell the people a recap of the first round?
I absolutely can. With pick 1, Kevin took Jalen Hurts. Pick 2, Chris, you took Joe Burrow. Pick 3, I took CeeDee Lamb. Pick 4, Rich took Justin Jefferson. Pick 5, Kevin took Tua Tagovailoa. Pick 6, Chris Burns took Justin Herbert. Pick 7, I took Jonathan Taylor. Pick 8, Rich Sickles took Jordan Love. Pick 9, Kevin took Brandon Ayuk. Pick 10, Chris Burns took T. Higgins. Pick 11, I took Michael Pittman. And pick 12, Rich took DeAndre Swift.
All right. So, Kevin, after that first round, like the redraft of the 2020, how do you feel about that? Is there anything that really sticks out to you?
No, I mean, I was kind of going through it, and it really kind of, I mean, this class was supposed to redefine Dynasty a little bit. Remember back in 2020 when they were talking about this class? I mean, obviously injuries derailed the running back, so we'll probably get into that as we go over probably the second round. But just, I think when you look at it, it's just rushing quarterbacks again. They're always going to be valued a little bit higher. But you see like CD and Justin Jefferson being in this class really solidified that Dynasty, the wide receiver class that you like there. But solid pieces, like, you know, and at the quarterback spot, which is ironic because I'm old, so I remember in 2020 we were doing rookie drafts. These quarterbacks got pushed down a little bit, like Justin Herbert going 10th, because a lot of the running backs went ahead of these guys. CH, some of these other guys that haven't got off the board yet. I saw like usually what we saw Tua go at 101 a lot. And then you saw like 4 running backs go off the board. I remember being in drafts like, oh my gosh. And then you got like, remember Justin Jefferson wasn't that high of a pick. You know, people did not like, he was 11th overall. Like he was going pretty low there. So it's just funny that we don't know shit, boys. Like that's just really what it is. Like we can dive in as much as we want. We can have our nuances. But again, this is why I always talk about the strategy, you know, having those trading for like future picks is not a foolproof plan of rebuilding. Like I'm always about retooling and trying to trade picks for known assets or commodities and trying to get like the Ayuks of the world and those things, because at least you're getting fantasy production in there. And just trading for unknowns is where you get into some trouble, because if you look at the original draft position, these guys weren't getting drafted there. They weren't getting taken. You're looking at some big misses that we'll probably be talking about pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And you know, since you just properly assessed that first round,
yeah,
you win the 13th pick.
I don't know.
You're on the clock.
I don't know about that, but this, you said it's tight end. Is it tight end premium? Is it tight end premium?
Yes,
it is.
All right. I'll take Cole Kmet because it's disgusting, but really like it gets gross after this, everybody. Like when you're looking at the board there, and you know, Cole's been one of those guys, that I go back and forth on when you're looking at it. I like he's been okay. He's not been that guy that like really has been a surefire fantasy guy. But the last 2 years, he's had 13 touchdowns. So he has scored touchdowns. And at the tight end position, if you score a touchdown in any given week, you're probably a tight end 1, probably a low end tight end 1, as long as you had a few catches there. So, and he did see targets, 90 targets last year. You saw 93 his sophomore year in 2021. And I do think moving forward, I mean, I know that offense, you know, Rich was talking about it with Swift. They have Rome Odunze, they have Keenan Allen now. They have DJ Moore, who I think is underrated too. And I think that with Shane Waldron being there, though, and the tight end position and how he's utilized it, you're still going to see those red zone targets for Cole. And so I do think there's an upside there from a touchdown perspective. I mean, I'm not buying Cole Kmet at any point in life, but I do think that he could still see red zone touches, red zone targets. I mean, and his targets aren't just going to go away. I mean, the guy has had, 296 targets in his career. So he's definitely earned those. And that those don't just come there because they have had bad players, because they haven't had terrible offensive weapons there. I know they're better now, but you might see him more efficient in the red zone. So in premium, I'll take Cole Kmet because at least he's earned targets and some type of production.
Nice. I like it. I like that a lot. Cole Kmet, you probably you probably hurt Rich because I think he wanted Cole Kmet.
Mhm.
He likes
He was
collecting.
he was one of the two. He was one of the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I am up, and I'm gonna surprise you guys with this pick right here. So just letting you know, Tyler, you might have to scroll far down that list to find this guy because I didn't see him on your list. But he is a running back out of Illinois State, undrafted free agent, Mr. James Robinson.
What? Oh my God! I don't think he was on my list.
I was going to say, I don't think I see him on the list.
How crazy did you forget? I mean, okay, so he was a Jag and he played for the Jags, but let me tell you why I'm picking him right here. Because how Tyler said that his reason for going with Jonathan Taylor, those two RB1 seasons. Well, James Robinson had one RB1 season where he finished RB7 in 2020 with 1,000 yards rushing. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, 49 catches for 344 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. Baller. He followed that up with an RB25 season where he had 767 yards rushing, but he had 8 touchdowns on the ground. And he also had 31 catches for another 222 yards. And remember, he was doing this when the Jags were not good. they weren't doing much. Nobody expected anything. But to get an undrafted free agent, at the 14 spot, who actually is going to give me 2 seasons that I really could use that solid production and then kind of fall off the map. So if I was smart enough in 2022, I would have sold him for a haul and then pick some more stuff. But knowing what I know now, even still, I'm still taking James Robinson above the rest of the people who are in this draft. So
man, it's never good when you try to sell it that hard, Chris. I don't know. Like, yeah, you're like, that's pretty. Like,
I just love that he's not even on the list.
I mean,
I know.
I do use a little P Ryan.
I love how you got to the second season. You're like, well, 700 yards is all right. Like, but we're not talking about that. I'm a win now roster. Win now roster. Year 1.
Oh man, but yeah. So James Robinson, Tyler, you're on the clock.
Man.
I know I sniped you. I know you wanted him, but he's mine.
You did not. I forgot he existed, but I thought you were going to take my other running back that I'm going to go ahead and take here. I am going to take Antonio Gibson.
Okay, that's a good pick.
And I feel really good about that. Reason being, I feel like the feelings on him are just not accurate simply because of the fault of the Washington coaching staff. They never used him properly. He was always a good pass catcher. They didn't want to use him in that role very much, but he was still a big boy and he could run between the tackles, but they didn't really use him there. But he still found a way to produce. His rookie year, he finished as RB13. His sophomore year, he finishes RB12. His third year, he finishes RB27. Last year, nothing to write home about, RB39. But you got 3 usable years out of Antonio Gibson, who is still only 25, signed a contract with the Patriots, and could go and be the this feels dirty to say, but could go and be the Kareem Hunt to Ramondre Stevenson's Nick Chubb. That's not a fair comparison, but I'm just going with it because Alex Van Pelt's their offensive coordinator.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could be 2 months. So, I'm not banking on more productive seasons from Antonio Gibson, but I am happy with the 3 productive seasons he gave me between 2020 and 2022.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think you hit the nail on the head about Ron Rivera and the way they treated him in Washington. Just so weird, just some weird usage. Like, you remember when he made him he was leading the depth chart for kick returns, that's and then Brian Robinson got shot, so then he had to put him back at running back. You guys remember that?
And kept on losing snap to JD McKissick.
No.
That hurts.
Right.
All right, Rich, you're up, my friend.
Yeah, and as has already been said, this is pretty dirty. So I'm gonna wallow in the mud a little bit here. I'm gonna dive right into it, and we're gonna enjoy the fact that I just cannot quit on Jerry Jeudy. We're gonna take Jeudy right here. I listen, when he came out, he was my wide receiver one. I was so excited about him coming out. I really thought that he was gonna figure it out in Denver, and nothing has been right in Denver ever since he came out. So I'm really hoping that things are going to turn around with him being in Cleveland now. I'm really hoping that that he figures it out. I'm hoping that he just that things in general kind of clear, and he finally becomes what I thought he could be. Maybe it won't happen in Cleveland, but even still, I'm still going with Jerry Jeudy because there's nothing left that I'm willing to take. So,
so you said like since he got there, nothing really went right in Denver. You think it was that mile high air that was making him drop all those passes?
Right. No.
It's like I don't know what to say.
No. I honestly, I think that there was some issues there with how do I put this? I know that he dropped a lot of passes. Looking back, actually, I wish that I had the stats in front of me. I recently did a deep dive on him and his drops, and it's not as bad as what like his rookie year was awful. Don't get me wrong. Like it was terrible. But the last couple of years he hasn't been that bad, and I think that he's slowly turned it around. So I'm on board. I'm thinking that it was just a growth issue, and I think that he will figure it out.
It's never good to have growth issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what context.
What I was going for.
Hey, yeah.
I've heard there's pills that can help with that.
Yeah. All right. So Jerry Jeudy's off the board. I know that he sniped you probably a little bit there, Kevin, but you are on the clock.
So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna make my own rules here and say this is best ball, and I'm gonna take Gabe Davis. So I'm taking Gabe Davis for the Bills and now the Jacksonville Jaguars. The thing with him, like, I mean, I was never a truther on either side, and I just never was. But like, he just can't put it together. So the big thing with him is like it was hard to trust him week in, week out. Like, hey, can we start or sit this kid? Because he'd have a weekly finish where he's a top 10 guy, and then he finishes with like 0 catches and 2 yards, or 0 catches and 2 targets or whatever it is. So I think that, his stats are okay, though. I mean, he's had 500 yards at least the last 4 years. He saw the targets there. He had almost 300 targets the last 4 years. So, like, he's not someone that you could definitely rely on. But, I mean, now he's in Jacksonville. Again, you're looking at it like there's an opportunity for him to earn targets, too. I know they have Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, and those guys. But at this point, I'll take a guy that has some proven production that maybe I could throw in a pinch.
I love it. You absolutely make your own rules, like Thunderdome. Let's go. All right, so I'm up next, and my pick, just because I'm not really liking a lot what I see here, but I'm gonna go with J.K. Dobbins, and I don't have a lot to say. I'm just gonna tell you that last year he had 8 carries. I mean, for 22 yards. He would have had 2 touchdowns. But he got pulled off at like the 1-inch yard twice, and then he tore his ACL again. But he did have 2 receptions, and I felt like he caught the ball better than Jerry Jeudy, which that Jeudy pick. But yeah, I have not a lot to say, so Tyler, I'm passing it on to you.
Oh, I mean, you didn't take the guy that I wanted, so I'm going to go ahead and take one of the last guys that kind of has a somewhat productive season and a good outlook, and I'm going to take Zach Moss.
God dang it.
That's fair.
That's fair. That's a good pick.
He had a really good half season there with Indy before Jonathan Taylor came back. Oh, wow. Zach Moss is at his exact ADP. That's wild.
That's wild.
As things change, some things stay the same.
Yeah. He's going to have another shot at a productive season in Cincinnati with Chase Brown and being that backfield. So, yeah, I'll take Zach Moss. Doesn't feel great, but I'd rather take him than A.J. Dillon.
I like it. And with that, Rich, we're going to come to you for the last pick, and then we're going to get into like some riders and fallers. But yeah, so the last pick of this draft, who you got, Mr. Rich?
Oh, man.
Do it.
What do I have left?
Take your second.
Honestly, I'm gonna take Darnell Mooney. I think that he's somebody that's a little slept on right now. I think that a lot of people are not understanding how much Kirk Cousins really likes to spread the ball around, and he as a Vikings fan, I got to see it firsthand. He threw it to KJ Osborne a lot, and I think Darnell Mooney is going to slip right into that role. And so I think that he this year is going to be productive. I don't think that he's going to be great by any means. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1. He'll be a low end wide receiver 2. But hey, at this point in the draft, with what's left over, a low end wide receiver 2 is what I want.
Okay.
That just reminded me. Did anyone see the video of the Bears draft room when the Falcons took Penix?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They played it cool. They were excited that Rome Odunze didn't get drafted there. But at the very end of the video, you heard someone in the back of the draft room saying, Rome Odunze for free.
That's great.
That is good.
I didn't see that, but I got to find that. I got to check that out.
I'll get it to you.
All right. So through 20 picks of our redraft of the 2020 rookie draft, as you see, here we are. So Tyler, tell the people who can't see right now, so the biggest risers, or let's start with the fallers. Who are the biggest fallers in the draft from what you can see?
All right, so the biggest fallers here, you got J.K. Dobbins, who was drafted at 18, was originally drafted in the 5th spot, which that was a rough pick. The other big fallers, Jerry Jeudy, he dropped 8 spots. DeAndre Swift, he dropped 6 spots. Jonathan Taylor, he dropped 4 spots. And those are really the only fallers to speak of, because the only other ones in red and Joe Burrow and Tua, and I'm not really counting those because they're only 1 spot down.
Right. Yeah, so I think a lot has to go with Kevin had said earlier about injuries knocking some of those running backs down, because it was running back heavy. It was the year of the running back. In 2019, they're telling everybody, get those 2020 first, because you can get all these running backs. So with the risers, what's the biggest riser that we've seen?
All right. I mean, the biggest risers are people like an undrafted James Robinson and Gabe Davis. But the biggest risers that really had a very significant impact on your fantasy team, Jalen Hurts, who was drafted at the end of the 2nd round, now going 1st overall, which is a big jump. You got Jordan Love, who was originally drafted at the beginning of the 3rd, now going 8th overall, a 17-spot jump. The James Robinson thing again, but just the other small jumps. Antonio Gibson up 9 spots, Michael Pittman up 6, CeeDee Lamb up 6. Where's Justin Jefferson? Justin Jefferson up 7. You see a trend here with running backs falling and wide receivers rising.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, I'm going to come back to you. So now that you've seen how this is all shaken out for us redrafting it here today in 2024, how do you feel versus what you saw in 2020? Just your thoughts on the board as a collective.
I think just in general, dynasties changed in 4 years, right? The value of the position. So like Tyler was talking about, it's just, no one wants running backs anymore. Because really what it is running backs is what can they do for me this next game? That's really where it comes down to with running backs. And that's their value. That's how they're valued now. Except for maybe the top guys, right? Those top 3 or 4 guys. So like, I do think that what you're seeing and how we drafted is kind of how the value is now. You just look at all the wide receivers. Besides that weird James Robinson pick, I don't know what that was about. But the other ones, like when you're going into it, but like to that point, like not to talk shit, but you picked him because you knew that first year was a running back 1, because you knew, hey, he's going to give me this season. So that's kind of how we look at running backs now too. It's like, hey, can I buy this guy? I saw a tweet today. I wasn't on Twitter much, but I did see something say like, don't buy running backs now, which obviously like that's advice that, yeah, it needs to be said. And I agree, but maybe not all the way. Like if you can find a running back that, could possibly be cheap enough to give you some production, like Gibson's a perfect target. I've been talking about Antonio Gibson too. Me and Leo Pasigo, we do a kind of a dynasty show every couple of weeks, and he loves him too, because he could be that Hunt-ish wide receiver PPR guy that you're like, hey, I threw a third out and I got this dude and he's giving me running back 2 numbers, right? So like that's kind of what you're looking for now. Whereas back then in 2020, it's like, oh, I'm drafting J.K. Dobbins, who we got robbed of because I really think he could have been special, but I'm drafting him. He's going to be on my dynasty rosters for 5 years. Stud. Mark it down. And that's how people thought. Or CEH, who isn't even on this board. We didn't even draft CEH. He was going top 5 in most drafts. I mean, everybody's like, hey, he's running back 1. I remember people being so crazy in 2020 saying he's going to be running back 1 overall for the rest for like 4 years. He's that dynasty guy. There were people doing that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is how fast it shifts and when's that shift back. Is there strategy now to where it's okay to go heavy running back possibly because so many people are avoiding it and you can't build a team like 11 other managers, right? So I think there's nuance to that now, but that's kind of how I look at the board. It's like we drafted how Dynasty's being played now with this class, but it's just interesting how fast it changes, because it's going to change. If we did this in 4 years, the same thing, who knows what we could be drafting or how we're drafting just based on that. Maybe it's going to shift back to the running backs.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a really excellent point. Like, I agree with you. Like, we are drafting how the game is played today and how the league has changed. So it is quick that it's happened that fast. Real quick, we're going to go around the horn. Rich, your favorite pick of the draft. Not your own, though.
Not my own. Ooh, favorite pick of the draft? CeeDee Lamb. Got to go with CeeDee Lamb. Like I said, he's my wide receiver 1 right now in Dynasty. I think that he has out of the top 3, I think that he has the most consistency there. I'm interested to see what happens with the quarterback play, but I think that Dallas figures it out. I really hope Jerry Jeudy figures it out anyways. And CeeDee Lamb and CeeDee Lamb and Dak are able to make beautiful music for a long time to come.
All right. Tyler, same question. Favorite pick?
I'm going to go ahead and say, before I do that, this draft was a good reminder of pick value. If you look at the top 12 guys, the first round for this exercise, 4 of these guys were drafted in the second round. Not even like early second round. It was mid 16, 17, 18, 23, mid to late second round. And one of them, Jordan Love, was drafted in the third round. So don't just write off those third round picks that you're just throwing around for nothing. Make sure you're valuing second round picks properly, and make sure you're also remembering that first round picks are not a guarantee. So this is it puts it into perspective for me, just for pick value and trading for future. That said, my favorite pick was Brandon Ayuk at 9. You're getting likely wide receiver 1 outside of the top 8 in this rookie. That's awesome value. And I'm looking forward to seeing him and Brock Purdy work well for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Sounds great. I love it. All right. So that concludes our redraft of the 2020 rookies. And Kevin, before we get you up out of here, we're going to have one last segment with you. We're going to do a rapid fire session of Keep, Trade, Cut, the Dynasty edition. All right. So I'm going to tell you a position. I'm going to name 3 players, and you tell me who you're keep, trading, cutting, and then we'll move on to the next. You ready?
All right. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Starting at quarterbacks. Keep, trade, cut, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels.
Ooh, I keep in Kyler. I think he could have a top 5 season. I'd probably trade Daniels because I think his ceiling is or his trade value is the best, and I'd cut Jordan Love. Apparently, I have a hate Jordan Love motto going on right now.
And be careful, Rich might hunt you down.
I'm sorry,
I know.
Rich.
No,
All right.
Yeah,
Wide
just
receiver.
growling now.
Wide receiver. Keep trade cut. DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Nico Collins.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep DJ Moore. I think he's getting slept on a little bit in that offense, and I like him with Caleb. I would probably, I'm gonna probably trade T and cut Nico.
Ugh.
I'm sorry
that
to my
hurts.
Nico guys.
That's
out there.
painful. Yeah.
All right, running backs. Rashad White, James Cook, Jonathan Brooks. Keep trade cut.
I'm gonna keep Brooks. I will trade Rashad and cut Cook.
I agree with that there too. All right, and tight end. This is a tough one for you. Keep trade cut. Luke Musgrave, Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson.
Nah, ain't that tough. I'll keep Jake Ferguson. I will trade Cole Kmet, and I will cut Luke Musgrave. I swear to God, I don't hate Packer fan. I don't hate Packers. All right, like I'm not like. Actually, I kind of do. As a Dallas fan, I actually effing hate the Packers. I'm not gonna lie, but like I don't hate
That's
these
right.
players. I just hate those guys. But yeah, I think Jake Ferguson's set up to be the wide receiver 2 on that team. I'm excited about Jake's year this year.
I am too. I absolutely love it. And with that, we have come to the end of another Dynasty 365 episode. Special thanks and a big thanks to our special guest tonight, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. You can find him at DuBois_22 on Twitter. So make sure to follow him online. Kevin, please tell the people where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, you can find us over at the Devy Royale. We do Dynasty, Draft, Devy stuff now. We're actually went over there full time recently. We're trying a full time thing. We're going to be trying to go and see what we can build there. So we just crossed over 200 and something patrons this week. We're pushing to YouTube content as well. And having some fun with it. And you can join our Discord and over there. Or if you just want to do our Substack, we started writing a Substack the last 3 weeks. We have almost 200 subscribers. You can check that out. It's the Devy Royale Substack. And it's a lot of fun. We're doing a lot of different stuff. Devy, Draft, Dynasty, all of the above. And we have rankings for everything, by the way. And if you like what Devy, I know I came on here last year and talked to you guys about what Devy was. But we actually have combined rankings. So we have over 200 players ranked at each position, and that's with college football as well. So you can kind of see what those guys are valued at, which is very hard for people to kind of value, how the hell do you value Luther Burden from Missouri compared to Brandon Ayuk? Well, we do that for you. That's why we make it easier. And you can find that on our Patreon.
Nice. That is awesome. Much appreciated. All right. And I just want to thank everybody who has joined in and watched us tonight on YouTube. Those who are listening on podcasts, your favorite podcast, thank you for listening to us as well. You can follow us, the Dynasty 365 crew, on Twitter, X, however you want to call it. Tyler, he's at FF Tyler Howe. Rich, find him at Rich Sickles GBM, the ginger beard man himself. And you can find me at Dynasty Deviant. Also, visit our website, fantasyinframes.com, and subscribe to the show on YouTube. And make sure that you like us, give us a comment, review us, do all that fun stuff, and also hit that bell so you can subscribe to us and you will not miss any of the Fantasy and Frames content. Also, be sure to like all of our Fantasy and Frames shows. We're Dynasty 365. We got you covered for your Dynasty needs. Fourth and Frames, which follows us. You can find them for their redraft content. And Shoot the Gap is after them. And that's where you can find all that delicious IDP content that you crave. So tune in on Thursdays for the Fantasy Football Weekly and the Draft Show. Again, thanks everybody for hanging out. Now let's go out there and dominate our leagues. See you next time.